Hello, everybody.
My name is Niki Williams. Hi. And I work with ConsenSys, and this is...
My name is Elaine Zelby. I also work with ConsenSys, and we're going to talk to you a little bit about building the on-ramp to blockchain through storytelling.
Yeah, so, you know, sometimes it doesn't seem logical or natural that a place like ConsenSys would hire a professional storyteller, which is what I am. But my thesis is that if blockchain is the future, and we would like for blockchain to be picked up to literally be Web 3.0, then it has to be picked up within the world of culture. Nothing happens outside of culture. If it doesn't get picked up there, it's not going to be a thing. We have a little bit of feedback also, sound guy. Thank you. And so culture is how our stories live in the world. And so what do I even mean by that? Like, for example, I have this picture here, and on the one hand, we've used science to describe the world. But none of that mattered until it affected culture, until there were Sistine Chapels built with ideas about what we thought about it there. And then that conversation back and forth is how we have the science of today. You can go to the next slide. And so I give you the example of the AIDS epidemic. These pictures are all pictures of things that happened in the 80s and, as it relates to AIDS. And many people don't quite understand, like, however did AIDS research pick up and be a thing that anyone ever even cared about? And I would argue because of each of these things happens in culture. How does that relate to blockchain, and how does that relate to storytelling? Well, when Magic Johnson came out as being HIV positive, Rent was on stage, Elizabeth Glaser was on Oprah, and they had Live Aid. Now we have a conversation. Now scientists are allocating funds and research toward the development of AIDS, medicine for AIDS. And now we live in a time where you can take a vaccine and be vaccinated against AIDS or HIV. And so when we live in a world where that's what's happening, and we're starting to build within the world of blockchain, I'm making the argument to encourage you to find the cultural touch points. That if we would like to, if you want to make the money, you want to move to the Cayman Islands, you want to do all of these things, build in the world of blockchain, you got to start with culture, and you got to start thinking about how to tell the story. And you can go to the next slide. Here's another case in point. We've got Apple Computer. Everybody knows the story of how Apple Computer started. It started in a garage. But what made it where we now have a world where Spike Jonze has FKA Twigs dancing in a house, and everybody has a HomePod in their home? Why is that? It's because Apple did a really good job telling their story. They told you to think different. So from the very beginning until right now, everyone's thinking different as it relates to what a computer is in their home. So again, the call to action is, how does the technology that you're building relate to culture? How is it relevant to the way that we live our lives? That's how scientists decide what they're going to invest in because they come home and their family's talking about it. That's how governments decide where people are going to vote, actually, is where does it exist in the media, who's talking about it, and why. And it's also why we care, why anyone cares about what we're doing. So I just think that that's an important place to start to continue this conversation about the role of storytelling and where we're headed with blockchain.
Now let's turn the conversation to blockchain. So as we mentioned at the beginning, Niki and I work at ConsenSys, and ConsenSys is a semi-autonomous, decentralized holacracy that is assembling the tools needed to build and scale a world where distributed applications and the Ethereum world computer enable a new class of frictionless global commerce with inclusion for all. Now, the appropriate response to that should be something like this. So I can I can laugh at our own company. That means nothing to anybody. And that is something, that I'm seeing across the board in blockchain, in that people love to put up a bunch of buzzwords, but that's not speaking to humans. That's not articulating what are we actually doing. Now, if I break it down, ConsenSys was formed by Joe Lubin in 2015. Joe Lubin was one of the co-founders of the Ethereum protocol, and he had the foresight to recognize that to make this grow, he needed to build an ecosystem and a community around this as it became mature and as it grew. And through that, he started an incubator, an accelerator, building decentralized applications, building education, building consulting practices around Ethereum. Now, by breaking it down and telling it more of a story like that, it becomes a little more clear as to what ConsenSys actually is. Now, there's something that's making this a little bit more challenging right now. It's a little secret in the industry, and that secret is there are no experts out there today. If you look at a lot of the other major tech spheres, augmented reality, artificial intelligence, machine learning, things like that, these areas have been around since the 40s, 50s, 60s. People have spent their entire lives, their entire careers, becoming experts on this, being able to tell the stories, being able to figure out the use cases. Right now, I hear in this industry a lot that there are a lot of solutions looking for problems. Well, the issue is that this has been around for less than 10 years, so people need to figure out what those stories are, need to figure out who is impacted, how are they impacted, and how do you translate that back to the language that you're using. Because there are no experts, you're seeing somebody is kind of the little red fish, puts out something that sounds really cool and buzzwordy, and then all the other little fish copy it, and that's getting spread so quickly around all the websites, white papers, things like that. Because again, this is new. There's a lot of hype. Because the prices, people have been drawn to this industry who don't have the expertise and don't have the use cases in mind. Now, we're in need of some great storytelling. You know, when I see things like we're building decentralized, autonomous, self-sovereign marketplace for trustless data exchange, my point before, this is something that comes across for technologies in the financial space, in the healthcare space, in the agricultural space. This is not articulating what this individual project, company, or anything is trying to solve. Some of my favorite examples, and I'll go through this quickly. So, autonomous digital currency. I don't know what that means. And when I hear autonomous, I think autonomous cars. So is this currency going to be driving itself to me? Something like that. This one is very funny. The new third-generation blockchain infrastructure. Somebody please tell me how we're already on generation 3. So some other good ones out there. Oh, this one's great, too. A coin for the community, decentralized and anonymous, yet transparent and fast. Again, I have no idea what these are actually doing. Now, one that I think is doing a very good job is Grid Plus. So when you go to their website, you're seeing something that says, welcome to the future of energy. Now, I think that we need to build that on-ramp for what is reality today versus what is the art of the possible. And they're articulating it very well. On their site, it says, Grid Plus uses technology and automation to offer you dramatic savings in home energy costs. Powered by a simple app, join us to save big and help make the grid where you live cheaper and greener. So it's very clear. What is the problem they're solving? Well, my home energy costs are high, or maybe I also want to be a little bit greener. Who are they speaking to? They're talking to homeowners that care about this. What are they giving you? A simple mobile app. They're trying to change the way that energy is done, talking about the future, but they're telling me in a way that I can clearly understand that is telling the story of who's affected and why. Now, the ingredients for a good story, just think about the who, what, why, and how. So in the who are your cast of characters? And be specific. Where do they live? What do they do? What do they care about? Envision who they are and make sure you actually know who the people are and what they care about. What is the problem today? What does it mean for those individual people? And really, again, go specific, understand what the problems are. Why does the problem exist? Why now? Why does it need to be solved? And finally, how are you going to solve it? Why you? Why, again, does it have to be done today? So with that, I leave you with all of the pieces that you already have today that you can formulate into your story. So hopefully you can use this and take it and start telling the stories of blockchain.
Yeah, and remember to build culturally relevant products.
Yes.
That's really important. Yeah.
Thank you.